So as we're talking through this, and for people who are tuning in, and we don't have to go through a whole overview of what's happening right now. You know, one of the biggest aspects of you kind of taking a content and reimagining it, I think it takes a lot of the planning. I feel like a lot of personal projects, at least for me, it gets very difficult, right, to go in there and just take the first steps, right? So at least having something, starting with some kind of fan art, right, inspiration to draw from, to kind of carry through and kind of reference, right, it really helps, especially as a 3D artist. I think concept guys have a lot better time doing this, but like as a concept 3D artist, you're doing a lot of 3D concept to kind of get the wheels turning, to kind of get the wheels going, right? So you were kind of mentioning 3D concepting, and that is one of your focus point for doing this type of project. Were you always doing that before, or is this something, a new type of process that you really wanted to nail this time around?
Actually, yeah, like it's 3D concepting is always, that was actually my my first like introduction to Zbrush. When I first started using Zbrush at the time, I actually wanted to be a concept artist. I was in school for it. Well, I was in school for concept artists. I actually I went to the Art Institute. They didn't have a concept art program. So all the people at that school that wanted to be concept artists, they would just get together after school's over and find a classroom and just start drawing, start sketching, start, you know, sharing tips and tricks with each other, watching videos, doing whatever they could to level up. They actually called it the Concept Club. And I was kind of like on riding the fence at that time, because I was an animation major and I was really getting into modeling. I really liked using 3ds Max and modeling hard surface stuff. And then finally I took a ZBrush class. This was like towards the end of my time there. It was like in year 3. And I really just loved it. I picked it up immediately. I remember I really loved sculpting with clay before that. And I just loved how fast you could iterate and prototype things in ZBrush. You know, you're not married to topology and stuff like that. So I would just kind of absorb that. And so that was kind of my first kind of step into it. And so after school, I started just playing around, trying to pretty much doing things what I'm doing right now, just doing different fan art, doing stuff that I want to see myself. I did a bebop design back in the day that was really fun. That was all 3D sculpt, all 3D concepted. I did like a pirate woman, kind of the same way. You know, and then kind of just going off of that, like learning different tips and tricks along the line. Kind of picking up little things here and there, talking to other friends of mine that were doing the same thing. And so this has always just been kind of a fun kind of exercise for me. And actually to this day, actually at work now, I do pretty much all my concepting in 3D, or at least I integrate 3D into it to, you know, take care of anatomical things, and I'll do like paint overs. So ZBrush is great for that. That's what makes it such a great program.
Yeah, definitely. So ZBrush seems to be your main tool set that you use from beginning to end. Do you use any other programs, at least for the modeling process, while you're concepting to final?
Yeah, I jump back and forth between ZBrush and Maya or 3ds Max from here to here and there for like cleaning up pieces. I use ZModeler and ZBrush, but I've always been, since I kind of learned from, on the onset to model in 3D suites like Max and Maya, I'm still more comfortable there. So usually what I'll do is I'll panel loop stuff out. But if I need to do any kind of a heavy modeling on it, then I'll take it to Maya. I'll clean it up, do some things to it, and then bring it back in to ZBrush and kind of work from there. This piece, for instance, I want to play more of like some hard surface techniques. Trying to pick up some techniques from Vitali, and from guys like that on how they kind of prototype things. And so that was like the challenge with this, was that kind of kit bashing some things together. But there's a lot of things, like for instance, Marvelous Designer was used for the jersey, because sometimes I'll sculpt things in, like the waistband, for instance, like the compression of this is definitely hand sculpted, but some of the other things I just find it a lot easier just to knock it out real quick using Marvelous Designer. I think you can get like some really quick results. If it's really complicated, then maybe it'll be a combination of that and like some modeling in ZBrush. So those are my big three right now for 3D suites.
Do you feel anything changing in the future landscape to your techniques where you feel like something's missing? Because it feels like you have the pipeline down. We looked at, the future tech of game engines being able to pump out more and more polygons and textures and being able to light characters even better now. But do you feel something along your production pipeline where you at least been hearing things that seems to really increase your workflow or just really help you with any shortcuts that you're struggling with right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the landscape's always changing with when it comes to the tools. When I first learned 3D, there was no Substance Painter or Substance Designer, so there's a lot more hand painted techniques, and then since then, now more of those procedural suites have come in and really just sped up the workflow immensely. There's going to be a day someday when UVs are going to be a thing of the past. There's going to be a day someday when hair cards are kind of antiquated. And then it'll make your life easier. And what that does is it just opens the door more towards artists to really get a foothold in. You don't have to be such a technical guru anymore to get in. I think that's a barrier that I've seen a lot of talented artists that kind of dip their toe in 3D that I know could have excelled. You would see them like tinker around with like some Dynamesh for an hour and they bust out some amazing stuff. But then when it came time to retopo it or UV it, their eyes would cross and they, go run back to, 2D where it's safe, And I feel like a lot of, and I already kind of see it. We actually just hired a character artist and she started off as a 2D artist. And she has amazing talent. And she picks up 3D so fast because a lot of those barriers have been kind of knocked down and she can just, concept and iterate. And then we can worry about the technical stuff later. There's a lot of tools that can really streamline that stuff, especially with texturing and lighting. When I was in school, we still had to light everything in Mental Ray. And I don't know if you ever use Mental Ray, but it's not user-friendly. It's not great out of the box. There's a lot of tinkering you have to do with the settings, and it can get really daunting. But now we have things like KeyShot and Marmoset Toolbag that just makes it so much easier. You can see all these amazing artists coming out now that can just really knock out some great pieces, some great looked-at pieces without having to worry about setting their gamma and, getting all that stuff set up right. They can just really just make get some really nice results. So absolutely.
That actually leads to a very interesting question. So with all the tool sets, and I feel like I'm becoming the old man talking about the heydays of Photoshop, how we used to do things differently, right? With all these tools getting better. I wanted to hear your opinion about, like, with all these other tools making life so much simpler, do you feel like a lot of new artists coming into the field are losing a bit of something, foundational skills that we've kind of built up through the old ways that they're missing, or is it all benefits?
I think so. There's definitely an argument for that. You can make that argument for really any industry. I mean, since we're talking about basketball players, I guess I'll make a basketball analogy. Yeah. Where, you'll see all the old time players, like Bob Cousy and stuff, talk about all these kids today that all they want to do is dunk and do fancy dribble moves and stuff like that. And they ignore all the fundamentals. Well, there is some truth to that. Till this day, the best basketball players are still the ones that have all that athletic stuff and they know all the fundamentals. You look at any great, like truly transcendent talent, they don't just get by on national talent alone. It's only going to take you so far. You still need to learn the fundamentals. But I think once again, when those old school players were playing, they were smoking cigarettes in the locker room and eating, red meat every day because they thought that was the best thing to eat. And, like nutrition wasn't where it is today. Athletic science wasn't where it is today. And so today's generation kind of benefits from that. And it's the same thing with, going back to 3D art. It's the same thing. Like the natural talent is still going to be a benefit. And if you could put that together with the fundamentals and use all the tools that are available today, then you're ahead of the curve. Because a lot of kind of to flip it around, a lot of the old school people like me, like I was a late adopter, relatively late adapter. to the newer tools like Substance Designer and Marvelous Designer, because I spent so much time learning how to sculpt drapery and folds and understanding the different types of folds, you know, compression and gravity folds and things like that. And I had to spend so much time learning all those Photoshop techniques, learning how to hand paint all that stuff. And when I finally picked up those tools, it was actually a benefit because I was able to apply that fundamental knowledge, and I was able to do things like, for instance, like in Substance Painter, you can't just, you know, throw a smart material on something and call it a day. You're going to see it's going to look very procedural still. There's only so much a smart material can do. You're still going to have to come in there as an artist and understand, okay, well, wear and tear is not going to be equal across this whole surface. It's going to be more worn out on the knees or on the, you know, palm of the hand or things like that on the glove. And you still have to, you know, bring that kind of fundamental knowledge to it. So it's really a combination. And for those people who have the talent and also put in the work and kind of keep up with the tech, then I think they're leading the pack. You can see it across the board.
Did you know the top 10 mobile games in the US grossed more than $340 million in June? Do you want your game to earn more? AppFigures is all about giving game makers the tools they need to get more downloads and revenue. You may already know them for analytics and app store optimization. Now, AppFigures can help you keep track of competitors and the game market, from how many downloads they're getting and how much money they're making, to their audience demographics and even which tools they use to power their games. Their competitor intelligence gives you great context. Got a great idea for an app or a game? With AppFigures, you can figure out how big the market is and how much money you could be making with it. Say a competitor adds a new feature or was mentioned in the news. With AppFigures, you can see if that brought in more downloads, and that's just scratching the surface. Whether you're growing your game or building a new one, AppFigures has what you need to reduce risk and get more downloads. Best of all, you don't need a large budget or data science degree to do this kind of thing anymore. AppFigures has made it affordable and simple. On top of tools, AppFigures also provides a lot of guides and tutorials to take you step by step through gaining more visibility with ASO and increasing your revenue by learning from your competitors. They just released a free guide on that, actually. Head to appfigures.com/on/GameDevUnchained to try AppFigures for free. Again, that's AppFigures, appfigures.com/on/GameDevUnchained to try it for free. If you like it, use our special code GDU3030 to get 30% off for the next 3 months. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's very much the same type of argument between 2D and 3D artists, and the ones that can do both are insanely talented, and you can see through their expression how there's a different type of flavor I feel whenever I see like a master of everything kind of approaching a particular project. So very much the same way, I think the old guards are always going to have an issue how much things are easier now, quote unquote, right? But right. I think for anyone that have the longest legs in the industry are the types that embraces new tech, that embraces new ways, that completely opens up a different way of thinking, to evolve as an artist, to evolve as a developer, to evolve as a businessman, anything of that sort. Anytime that you close off in a technology driven industry, only spells trouble, in my opinion. Right. If you're still out there talking about how CRT TVs are used to be the way of things, you know, no one's going to take you seriously. You're definitely showing your age a bit. Yeah,
exactly. And it's, you know, it's the other thing that comes with the new tools is that the bar rises. You have to rise with that bar. Where, you know, a certain character used to take, you know, a month to finish. Now with the new tools along, you know, that have come along, the expectation is to finish that same character in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And so you have to kind of keep up with that and stay up to date with all the tools. There's just no resting, you know, in this industry. It's too competitive. There's too many people out there churning out. I mean, I teach at Noman. I can tell you right now that next class is coming, and they're pretty good. They're like, they know their stuff. They grew up with these tools, and so there's no barrier there. And they're also being taught the fundamentals and stuff too, because no one's great at that. They still have, traditional sculpting classes and drawing classes, and these types of schools are popping up everywhere. CGMA, all these different schools. So the competition is pretty crazy out there. So that alone is why you have to stay on top of it. There's no resting. And the true pros, the people who really are excelling in this industry in the first place are the ones who love to do it. Whether they love, have a love in their personal projects, or, they bring it into the studio too, which is important. There's always going to be that kind of drive there. And you just need to make sure that you kind of keep that fire going, keep the pilot light lit on that, and continue to kind of grow and progress and challenge yourself. That's kind of my outlook on it. When I look at these personal projects, it is definitely marketable. It's a good marketing opportunity too for yourself. And that's really important, actually, as an artist, because you want to have your name out there, because once again, it's so competitive. There's a lot of killers out there, and like they're really good at marketing themselves. So that's another thing that you need to kind of evolve and grow with. That's kind of like where I'm trying to improve on this year too. In the past, I wasn't really great at marketing myself. I was just kind of like my nose to the grindstone, and trying to churn stuff out, trying to reach a certain level in my career, and just work on projects that were appealing to me. But there is a meeting point between those two worlds that you can live in, where you can make something that people love to look at, and then it can blossom into things that you weren't even aware. Like you can start busting all these pieces, and sooner or later people want to buy those. People want to buy prints from you. People want to watch your streams. And so there's an opportunity to kind of share that, and then share that knowledge with a bigger audience. So yeah, marketing this stuff is definitely a big part of it too. A lot of people grew up with Space Jam, so I knew that would be a big one. I'm actually working on a new series. If we have time, I have to show you guys real quick something I'm working on, like a sneak peek. No one's seen this before yet, but I'm trying to get into 3D printing. So I've been like kind of messing around with different stuff. So I'm doing like my series on like realistic Mario. So like this is like a whip right now.
This is like a ripped.
So. Yeah, big rip Mario. So like it's like the Smash Brothers version.
That's before COVID Mario, right? That's
yeah.
That's when he was able to go to the gym. Yeah, all that protein.
Yeah, he's got these guys.
Awesome,
these guys bling on there.
Dude,
that's what I'm in Yoshi's Beast, and then I'm
yeah. There we go. That looks
so. This is what I'm working on right now, and. I'm gonna do it like a more realistic Yoshi and put him on his back, and try to get some 3D prints out of this and see where it goes. So this is my first attempt at something from the beginning, planning it out as a 3D print.
Yeah.
I still have plans on printing some of my older stuff, but this one I just want to streamline for that. And hopefully, I can kind of like start developing a new hobby, and then maybe that hobby can turn into something else in the future. But just a way of keeping it fresh for me, so that I don't kind of get bogged down in the same flow every time.
Yeah. So explain to me, while you're getting into this world, I'm sure you have a lot more character art friends than I do, right? So 3D printing has become like quite synonymous with character developers, character artists in the game industry. It just seems to be like a natural extension of your skill set. I'm already sculpting it. Now why don't I print it so I can hold things?
Right.
From at least your beginning understanding of that industry, I mean, what is that world like? Like, is there like I know that you're kind of approaching this as a hobbyist, but I mean, is there a potential uptake in that, in building a business venture or any extension beyond just making cool art pieces?
Absolutely. And, if you look at some of the other really successful 3D artists out there who are, kind of branching out and kind of monetizing themselves, they all started from just being a fan and a student of character art and art in general. Mm-hmm. And they kind of blossomed out from that, usually very organically, they start off just, really enjoying making art, and then they would build a fan base sooner or later. And then you start getting requests from like, man, like, can I print that out? I would love to have that as a print. And it's like, well, like maybe what's this 3D printing stuff? Maybe I should look into that. And then you start, you kind of go down that rabbit hole, and then you discover prints for yourself, and then you start busting these out, and before you know it, different collectible companies are hitting you up for contract work, or maybe, speaking of contract work, maybe you're a contractor, and after a while you build a clientele to the point where you decide to maybe branch out and create your own contracting business where you're an outsourced company. All of that kind of organically comes from, starting at that grassroots place, kind of building it organically, and building up a clientele and a fan base from there. And that's kind of like where I'm trying to go to. That's like the next step in things is, I'm still kind of a student of you're always a student of the craft, but at the same time, I think teaching to that next group is really important. So I've tried to, set aside time to teach, and at the same time, grow like other businesses, as far as like outsourcing and just really helping out like studios where they need it, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's one of the biggest benefits of being an instructor and being a part of the new crop of developers. At the same time, you're in the forefront of giving back to the community, which is huge. I want to thank you for that. And you learn a lot by teaching, right? You kind of better your knowledge
Absolutely.
base, your foundation. At the same time, a part of you is like scouting the talent, right? You're like, all right, how many years I got left before these guys take my job, right? Because they're coming in cheaper, more willing, right? I mean, there's a lot of things stacked with them, right? I mean, if they come with the skill set, of course, it's a huge plus. That's not to downplay, experienced veterans, right? I mean, there's a place, there's a reason why AAA studios, or what they call Quad A studios now, want to hire senior professionals, because there's a certain, I would say, patience, right? There's a certain quality and approach, a certain general aspect of game development that requires a senior professionals to kind of take hold and be leads, right? Because come on, you can't just hand the kid to the keys to the car and just expect them to be suddenly driving these multi-million-dollar projects.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that we can rest on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, when you, kind of put your years in and you pay your dues, that's ultimately, like, everyone's different. Obviously, everyone has their different ambitions. I've always seen it as, I don't plan to be a production artist forever. As much as I love it, it can wear on you. Especially the way the industry is going right now, crunch is becoming more and more just an accepted cultural thing in the game industry. But there's other avenues, and I think as artists, sometimes we kind of accept the way things are, where there's other avenues you can go to kind of build for yourself. Outsourcing is obviously going to become more prevalent in these years, especially with the way things are going. As an artist, I'm just talking about as an individual artist. Working from home, working remotely, and then also just keeping in mind smaller studios that don't require as much crunch. Obviously, the larger studios, they're gonna, it kind of is what it is right now. Hopefully, there's reform coming, but I wouldn't bank on it, because there's the quality bar is at a place right now where you can't go backwards; you can only go forward, and it just takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of iteration, and it takes a lot of people who just love that lifestyle. And there are those people out there, and I used to be one of those people. I still am. I still really love just grinding on something until the late hours. But there's also a part of me that is like, well, I've got a kid on the way. I want to spend some time with my family. Thank you. And so, just kind of exploring those other avenues that maybe don't go down that same path.
I would say changing the pace of a game developer started when a kid is on the way. I think that's the traditional story. Is like, oh, I can't keep doing this the way I've been doing this for so long. It's a wake-up call. Right. It's a maturity, Absolutely. I think. And it's very healthy to kind of think that way, because sooner or later, we're going to get pretty old, get slower, right? Right. And while we're young, we need to kind of take these risks and explore naturally. And it's one of the reasons why GDEX was built, is to kind of get people thinking about what the next 5 years look like, and not just about, I mean, I can stay up to 3 a.m. Every day, 7 days a week, all the time, right? It's like, no, man, at a certain point, you don't want to do that anymore. And I say that, but like, I look at you, I was like, man, this guy must be still staying up pretty late to make these crazy projects, because it's a lot of work.
I am. Like these things are definitely, well, I'm one of those guys. That's the catch, because I'm one of those guys that like my best ideas come at like 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
it's training.
Usually what it really is. So like at the same time, like, I'm kind of fighting with myself on that. But it's really just about setting your hours. You can still work both in. It just depends on, how you are. Are you a morning person or you're a late person? I'm just more of a night person. So like, spending time with the family during the day, and then like tuck them all in by, 10 o'clock. That's when I start getting going. And then I'll from 10 to midnight, or I usually say I'm going to conk out at 1 o'clock. This is me. Like, I'm not telling you, you guys, you need to do this. Some of you guys, it might be the opposite. Maybe you want to wake up earlier in the morning and start grinding on this. That might be an option. Get up at 5 in the morning, and then, do your stuff like you're Rocky training for a fight, just, get up with the sun, and then get all your grinding out of the way, and then go drop your kids off at school, and then get on with your day. But there are slots that you can definitely fit that in without killing yourself. It's really just about time management and just prioritizing. I've got just as many games on my hard drive I haven't played than projects on my hard drive I haven't finished it yet. And at a certain point, I was just like, I'd rather finish those projects on my hard drive than those games on my hard drive. Those games are going to be there. They'll be there when I retire if it takes that long. But I kind of have that itch that I need to scratch when it comes to making art. It's always been there, and I can definitely see my mood change when I have it. It's kind of like about athletes, going back to the athlete analogies again. Sorry, but like if you talk to athletes and stuff, some of them, like, they just can't, if they've gone 2 days without working out, it's like a noticeable change in their demeanor. And I'm kind of like that with art. It just kind of keeps me centered. So I just make time for it.
You're definitely speaking my language. You mentioned athlete. I like to consider myself as an athlete, but I do go aggro, man. Especially being quarantined, like not going to the gym and doing my regular workout. I totally feel you, man. If you have a certain habit, and basically it's the way you breathe, and if you just venture off of that, there's something that clicks, right? I mean, not clicks, that ticks you off a bit. Just a simple thing, because you're just off your rhythm. And if anything, this time is really testing our rhythm. And I think there was a certain period for me, and it sounds like you haven't hit that switch yet, where, I was like spending all night doing stuff, and then I forgot exactly when, where I just suddenly became a morning person, where my best thoughts were like, I can wake up at 5 a.m. and just rock out for the next 6-7 hours and work on that. But like at 9 p.m., nothing is coming through. Nothing matters anymore, no matter how important the deadline. I'm just turned off and need to retire. So again,
I definitely hear you on that one.
Yeah, different artist, man. Same approach, I think. Same idea.
Right, same approach. You get that. Like when you're truly driven by something, then there's always going to be that thing like in the back of your head that's just always like poking you when you're not doing that thing. It's just like you need to get it out. It's almost like hunger. You have to eat every day, otherwise you start getting hungry. It's the same thing with anything you're passionate about. And if you're an artist out there listening to this and you don't have that little thing poking you in the back of the head, don't feel like that means you're not cut out for it or anything. Maybe you're just not inspired. Maybe it's time to just kind of reflect and think about, well, the stuff that I'm working on, these personal projects I'm working on, are they really something that I'm interested in? Or am I doing this because I think this is going to get the most clicks? Am I doing a sci-fi character because I think sci-fi characters is what people want to see when really you want to do medieval stuff or cartoony stuff? Really just doing like an inward look and decide, and see like what it is that you really enjoy working on. Because half the things on my hard drive that I haven't finished is because I started on it and I realized it wasn't where I want to be at that point. I might go back to it later when I'm in a different mind space, but I really just give myself a project that I know that is going to challenge me, and also is going to keep my attention, whether it's at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock at night, wherever wherever I'm working on it. So that's kind of my advice. I get that a lot from students, that question. So yeah, sometimes it just you gotta look around a little bit to find that inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration is definitely one of those things that kind of help kickstart your mojo for every personal project. And personal projects, if anything, I know there's a lot of talks with indie developers, especially throughout the day. You know, making a game is a huge different undertaking, right? And I feel like a lot of people just forget the steps in between. Is like, well, can you just make something right now and then deliver it within a week? Can you do that? And most, I would say, that can't do that won't be able to work with the team and deliver that game, right? I mean, that's just the reality. Like how can you take a huge step if you can't take the small steps, right?
Right, and it's baby steps at the beginning. Exactly.
And I think a lot of the projects, if anything, I feel like the people who are, now that everyone's working from home, right? Everyone's kind of forced to kind of think this way, but I've noticed like a transition for people who just love working in the office, right? I was like, oh man, I can't take this anymore. I need to go back to the office. I can't concentrate. Well, to me, it tells a lot about like, well, you probably never really did any workout like artistically outside of your 9 to 5, right? You're not used to this,
right,
to this lifestyle. So everyone such as yourself is probably loving this. Is like, yeah, man, I can be at home. Finally, God, give me more of this, right?
It's just a different, it's you know, and the opposite, because I've seen the opposite too, because like for instance, my team, my character team, like it's like a 50-50 split. Half of them wish that they were back in the office because they just, you know, like, especially it depends on your setup at home too. Like I'm fortunate, like, you know, I have like a lot of space to work with at home, and I don't have like noisy roommates that are, you know, making a racket or whatever, or, you know, like, or just whatever your home life might be. Maybe it's not conducive to being creative. So some of those people might want to get back in the office just to get in that space. But wherever you are, it's important to understand how to lock in and really just get down to it. Because me personally, I just came up always working alone late at night. I've done this since high school or earlier, since I was like a kid in grade school. Really, like I have a project, and you know, it's an art project, and I go way overboard with it and do all this crazy stuff, and I'd be up until way late working on it. So I've always been that person. Some other people, they got their best work at school in class, like, and as soon as the bell rang, whatever, they kind of just checked out, and but they still made amazing work in that time. So I guess it just depends on the person too. So that's a factor.
All right. I mean, we started this with some technical difficulties, but I'm glad that we kind of ironed things through and kind of got back into the groove of things. We are at the end of that hour, and I want to spend this time to personally thank you for joining us and becoming part of GDuck's history. And it's always a joy to kind of see where you're at with your personal projects. I consider you as one of the best character artists that I know, especially not just through your techniques, but the content and the joy that you bring into your projects. I mean, it's just self-evident, and it's always a pleasure to kind of see how lazy I am compared to your work ethic, man. But I want to spend this time to hand over the mic to you to kind of give a shout out, give attention to, for the people watching the live or the recording, where they can find your work and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way, man. It's really great being on this with you, man. Appreciate you. What I'm working on now is just stay tuned on my Instagram, DK Woods 3D. And you can also find me on ArtStation under Damon Woods. I'm going to be busting out a bunch more of these. You guys got a sneak peek at the Mario. There's more to come. There's a bunch more announcements that I can't wait to show you guys. So just stay tuned. All right, Damon. I want to thank you for your time and wish you the best, dude. Always connecting, always checking up with you. Hey, appreciate you, man.